Hello there and welcome to the latest in our Saturday Spotlight interviews. My name is Anna Amelia and I'm from North East Animal Rights. Today I'm delighted to welcome along Victoria Bryceson, who is an animal rights activist and also the founder of Miracles Mission. So welcome Victoria and thank you very much for doing this.
Hello, thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. So as usual, the first question is for our interviewees, or could you tell us about your vegan journey, please?
Well, I actually went vegetarian before I went vegan. So I was 9 years old. And at this age, I realized where animals came from, where meat comes from. And I loved animals so much. I loved animals from birth. My mum said that even as a toddler, I was always toddling around next to a dog. And I just loved animals so much. I just did not want to eat them. And it was that simple. I then, about 10 years later, I learned more about the dairy industry, and I sadly learned that that is also just as horrific as the meat industry. And so I stopped having dairy as well. So that's when I became fully vegan. And I have never once regretted the decision. I've never once looked back. I've never once thought, oh, I wish I hadn't done it. I wish I'd done it sooner. I think that's a common theme within the vegan community. But I just feel amazing as a vegan, and I feel so happy with the lifestyle that I'm living, and I just recommend it to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, you're certainly looking very well on it. I mean, obviously you've been vegan for so how long ago? How many years ago was this? And if you're when you were 19, then you went vegan, yeah?
Yeah, so I mean, you're talking nearly 20 years.
Yeah, so before it was trendy and sort of it's popular and is accessible as what it is what I'm trying to get at. I'm not trying to say you're old, just trying to just trying to think like the last sort of like 5 or 6 years or so. Obviously, it's kind of like it's gone up exponentially, which is great. But obviously, people who have been longer term vegans, it was more difficult to access then. So could you tell us the reason or the inspiration behind Miracles Mission?
So I actually went out to Borneo to climb a mountain. So it had nothing to do with animal welfare. I just wanted to go on this adventure. However, when I was out there, Borneo is an amazing country. It's stunning. It's beautiful. It's just fabulous. But it's also a very sad country. Every single street I walked on, I just saw stray animals everywhere. Every corner I walked around, there was another pack of stray animals. And I'd never traveled anywhere before, so I'd never seen this. So I did get a real shock. Stray dogs, stray cats everywhere. And I'm not talking about, you know, these happy stray animals running along with full tummies. These were severely underweight animals. They weren't getting food. They had skin conditions. They were walking around with injuries. It was a very, very sad sight. And I came home and I just couldn't get these images out of my head. And I just thought, what can I do? What can I do to help these animals? And the most obvious and effective thing that I could think of was to start up neutering projects in the area. So I founded Miracles Mission initially with the aim of neutering stray dogs and stray cats. And that is the core of Miracles Mission. And it always has been and it always will be. However, I was in Egypt sorting out a neutering project, and this is when I saw my first severely disabled animal. So, I mean, I'd seen a 3-legged dog before, and dogs and cats with minor disabilities, but these were dogs that had no back legs, or the back legs weren't working, and they were dragging themselves along concrete, so they were covered in sores. They had no beds, they were malnourished, skin conditions, sores everywhere, wounds, and it was another horrific, shocking sight. And these animals, they were literally pressing themselves up against me, and they just wanted love. And it was just such a intense moment. And there was 2 dogs, and I initially knew that I just had to get them out of there and bring them home. So that was just the initial plan. But then when one of the dogs sadly passed away before the flight because he was in such poorly condition, but one of the dogs made it to me, and she couldn't use her back legs, and I was honestly just so devastated for her. I was just so upset. I was crying. I was beside myself. What could I do with this poor dog? But this poor dog got a set of wheels, and this poor dog just went running off as if, yeah, here I go, you know, what's wrong? She was playing with her friends in the park. She was chasing the ball. She was just racing everywhere. She was just loving life. And she just made me see how happy and active that these disabled animals can be. So ever since then, we've just wanted to help as many disabled animals as possible and just give them that chance at life that they so badly deserve.
Yeah. It's very, very moving actually listening to you talk, because I'm kind of picturing, I mean, obviously I've never been to Egypt or Borneo, but kind of picturing what you're saying. And I know a lot of animal charities tend to concentrate on on animals who aren't disabled. I know there's a couple of sanctuaries, PUDS is one I can think of straight away, who do also look after disabled animals. But disabled animals, I think a lot of the time, unfortunately, it comes down to finances, doesn't it? Because of the amount of money which it costs to kind of to bring an animal back to to be able to enjoy the life. So it's really, really heartwarming to hear that these animals are just so loved and so cherished, and loving life, and it's just absolutely brilliant. So what animals, which animals have you got in your life at the moment?
So I've got Tess and Miracle.
Mm-hmm.
So they were strays from Borneo.
Mm-hmm.
Tess I found on the streets when she was just a couple of weeks old,
Mm-hmm.
and she had severe skin conditions. She had blood parasites. She had distemper as well.
Mm-hmm.
And her mum and all her brothers and sisters sadly passed away from the distemper, but she somehow survived.
Mm-hmm.
And I found Miracle when she was just a few days old, and she was on the street. She'd just been dumped with her brothers and sisters, no mum. So the vet, of course, said, well, she's too young. She's been taken away from her mum too early, so she won't survive. But, obviously I tried. All her brothers and sisters sadly passed away, but she miraculously survived, hence her name, Miracle.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those two came back with me. I've also got Danny. He's a rescue from Romania. He was hit by a car and he's got a broken spine, so he can't use his back legs, but he gets around in wheels. And to him, there's literally nothing wrong. I don't actually even see him as disabled because there's just no struggle with him. And I've got Lara. She's from Egypt. She was stamped on when she was a puppy. Right. So all of her joints in her back legs were dislocated, broken, deformed. So she came here and she couldn't walk, but she got metal plates put into both of her hocks. And although her legs remain straight, she can now walk and she can actually run around. So she's got a really lovely story as well. So those are my dogs at the moment. Yeah,
it sounds absolutely amazing. It's just, I can see obviously you really, really care about them because you're absolutely beaming, but it's just really, really lovely to hear. Now, I know as well as running Miracles Mission, you also run vegan events as well. Now, I'm currently running Tyneside Vegan Festival. Is your hat, is it a vegan happy hat?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Because the reason I'm asking is because Laurie, who obviously owns and runs Vegan Happy, they're a sponsor in our event. So we have they're doing our t-shirts and bags. And Laurie's hoping to come up and have a stall with Expos and Cruelty. So anyways, we're digressing a bit. So I know you run vegan events, and I know from my experience running one, it's just so stressful. So how do you manage to kind of to balance running Miracles Mission and running the festivals? And I know the festivals kind of help Miracles Mission, but how do you manage your own mental health and your own well-being?
Well, yes, this is the thing. So before I started organising events, I had literally no idea that it was what it is, and it the time it takes. It's so time consuming and it can be so stressful at times, and it is so much work. And I just went into it totally blind, and you will fully understand the amount of work that goes into one event. And I think unless you are in the events industry, you just don't know and you just don't understand. But luckily, I absolutely love organising the events. And I think, I know if I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't be able to do it. I think you have to really enjoy what you're doing and have a real reason that you passionate about to do it. So that's how I get through it. But in terms of balancing it out and having my own life as well, to me, you have to take a bit of time out for yourself as well. So I do that. I mean, I know people have hobbies, exercising, reading, cooking, fantastic. Anything that works for you is great. For me, it's spending time with my own dogs, because my dogs are literally, I cannot even express, like, they are my world, they are my everything. So I'm spending time with my dogs, and that is my time out, and that is my time to just chill out and relax and take my own break away from everything else.
I think it's really, really important to it's very important as activists to take time out, because otherwise you do get burnt out really quickly. I know with this festival, it's just being all consuming, and I'm trying to kind of focus on the bigger picture, which is why we're doing it, to raise awareness for animals, to raise money for our group, to raise some money for other groups as well. But it does end up all consuming. And one of the best things that we've done in the past year is we've built a relationship with a sanctuary down in Wakefield, Millington's Magical Barn, and seeing the animals in their own natural environment and hearing the stories and everything that kind of brings it home to us why we're doing this, why we're doing it for these sorts of animals. And I would like to think I'm able to read and stuff, but I've long given up the hope of being able to sit down with a book and be uninterrupted with a book. So how do your friends and your family feel about your lifestyle and obviously your life's work as well? I mean, do you manage to get them involved in it, or do they sort of are they trying to are they always telling you to look after yourself and
Yeah, well, I mean, this has sort of become my entire life. So my friends are people that I'm working with. So people involved in the events or Miracles Mission. So obviously they are fully on board and actually helping me. And it is important to take help where you can get it as well. In terms of my family, they are, yes, always telling me, look after yourself, but they are incredibly proud. So they really support the mission behind the events, and they really are passionate about everything that I do for the dogs and the cats as well. So they are very, very supportive, and anything that they can do to help, they do as well.
Yeah, I mean, it must be really, they must be really proud of you. I mean, seeing sort of, like the animals you're bringing over or looking after, and seeing them develop from, like a really, like an animal who was disabled and really, really struggling, to an animal who's full of life and just an absolute joy. So they must get something out of it as well.
Yeah, they do. I mean, seeing Lara come when she couldn't walk and seeing her now racing through the forest, they're just like, what's happened to this dog? It's such an incredible thing to see.
Yeah. So is there anything that you're particularly proud of? I mean, I know setting up Miracles Mission in itself is a huge achievement, but maybe like a dog who everybody was telling you that not expect the dog to survive, or something, just just a big, like an achievement, either personal or with your dogs.
Yeah, so I always say that every dog and every cat that comes to us, because they've been through some trauma or some abuse, they've been through too much. But some of them are just on a different level, and they've just been through too much. And we brought a dog across from Egypt called Batel, and he is an absolute hero. So before he even came to us, we were told to put him to sleep several times, but we said no. We'd been out and we'd met him, then we thought, no, we can help this dog. So he did come to us, and then we found out that he had 2 dislocated hips because he'd been beaten so badly. His front leg had been cut off, and the toes off his remaining front leg had also been cut off. And he also had scars all over him that the vet said could only be burn marks or drag marks. So he had been through some horrendous abuse. He'd been through hell. But he had surgery on his hips, and then he had surgery on his front stump to cut the bone back to enable him to wear a prosthetic leg.
Yeah.
And then his remaining toes on his other paw, the bone was cut back on them because it was just bone on ground as it was before. So they were cut back and his pad pulled over to almost make him a new paw. So he recovered from all that, and he was getting around really well, and an extremely happy dog. I mean, he should hate everybody. He shouldn't want to be anywhere near people, but he's just amazing, full of life, so happy. But then just as we thought, that's it, we've done it, he was rushed into the vets with severe kidney failure. And he had a scan, and the vet said he had a kidney birth defect. So again, it was this thing, his time's come, do you want us to put him to sleep? And we said, we went to see him, and he was really, really severely ill, but his tail was wagging when he saw us, and we thought, no, he's fought and he hasn't sort of struggled with the fight. He's been happy throughout all his surgeries, and we just thought, no, there's something in him, and he wants to keep going. So we said, no, treat him. So they did, and he came back to us, and they said, he will go downhill within a couple of days or a week, and he didn't. And we changed his diet to a kidney-friendly diet, and he's never looked back. He recovered, and he's absolutely fully fit, healthy, bouncing. He's been through so much, but to him, it's just like a little puppy. And he's my hero, and he is a massive inspiration about how, keep going when times are tough and keep fighting. And he's fought, and he doesn't have to fight anymore because he's made it.
Yeah, that sounds absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. I mean, I suppose you know, in this country, the sort of stories we get with animal issues tend to be like neglect, where they haven't been fed properly, or they've been sort of left behind somewhere, or they've been hit. But I suppose in other countries, it's a different sort of abuse.
Yeah, that's the thing. If a case like Battelle in the UK, it would be like national press, wouldn't
Yeah,
it? It would go viral because it would be such a shocking case. But him in Egypt, that's just normal, which is horrendous.
yeah. You do seem to see a lot of like amputations, just like bizarre, random amputations. Dogs sort of like we've had legs chopped off, or you know they've been hungry and they've gone for some food, and somebody's objected to them taking the food and they've chopped legs off, and
Yeah,
you know some
yeah,
awful stories with cats as well. It's just you know the sort of like the stuff of nightmares, really, isn't it? Just
yeah,
awful.
yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So how can viewers and listeners, how can we help Miracle's mission?
Well, we are always looking for adopters or
Mm,
fosterers for the dogs
mm,
that we bring over.
mm,
All the dogs are really different varieties of disabled. So you could have a dog in wheels, you could have a dog with 3 legs, a dog with 4 legs but a wonky walk, a blind dog. So, you know, there's lots of options for people to consider.
yeah.
We are always looking for donations as well.
Mm,
And I always say to people, if you can't adopt or foster or donate,
mm,
the power of a share on social media is phenomenal,
mm,
because you could share a post and somebody else might donate or adopt
yeah,
off that post.
yeah,
So even just something as simple as a click and a share is
yeah.
so helpful and beneficial to us. It really is.
Yeah. So if they've got the space and the experience, so get in touch with you to adopt or to foster dogs or cats. If they can't, make a financial donation to the mission, so you can continue the work and help other animals. And failing that, if they can help with social media sharing, because like you said, it is really powerful. I mean, one share, you know, if somebody's got, I mean, I've got, you know, on our page we've got 3,000 followers. So if one share, which is 3,000 people, and then they share it as well,
Yeah,
it's going
exactly.
out massively, isn't it? So it really, really is
Yeah.
important to do that. So, and obviously what I'll do is I'll also put on sort of some contact details for you as well, like your tags and your social media and everything, so people can
Oh,
get in
brilliant.
touch and have a look at your work as well, because it is really, really important, you know, especially when you're working with dogs who are so sort of like overlooked because they're so, you know, expensive, I suppose, in terms of like, you know, like care,
Yeah.
but equally needy, you know, equally needy, and they really, really, you know, they really do deserve a chance. So thank you very much for all of the work you do. It's absolutely amazing. So what are you currently working on?
Well, we actually have a plan in process at the moment, because we do all our neutering in Borneo at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But we'd love to do more in Egypt. So we want to set up
Mm-hmm.
a mass neutering event in Egypt. So we want to pull all of the shelters together, so
Mm-hmm.
everybody's working together, and do this huge mass education and neutering campaign. So we want to send some of our vets out to Egypt to do the neutering, and at the same time we want them to upskill the vets that are there,
Yeah,
because the vets in Egypt, some of them, they are qualified vets in Egypt, but they don't even know how to neuter.
yeah,
So they really need guiding and
yeah.
education and experience with that.
Mm-hmm.
So we want to just neuter as many stray dogs and stray cats as possible within this campaign. So that's what we're working on at the moment, getting the funding for that together.
Yeah. So that's really important, because obviously it's stopping animals being born who are otherwise going to live on the street. It's also, you know, it's also going to be extremely expensive to do that. So, which is more important for people to share the social media and also to donate as well. Um, but it sounds like a massive, massive task. But I mean, one which will have, you know, like positive outcomes for all those animals over there. I know Egypt is massive, and I know that they do have a huge street dog problem, as do other places as well. Um, so you know, good luck to you. Good luck to everybody working on that, because it's just absolutely fabulous. It's amazing what you're doing.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
so I'm going to end here. We're kind of running out of time now, but it's been absolutely brilliant talking to you. So thank you very much. And please, 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 anybody who's out there who's listening, please support Miracle's mission. Check out what they do on social media. You know, check out you know, the individual dogs and animal stories, and just look at ways in which you can help. Because it's really, really important that the work that they do. So I'm going to sign off now, and I'm going to say thank you very much, Victoria, for coming along today. My name is Anna Amelia from North East Animal Rights. And thank you and goodbye to Victoria from Miracle's Mission.
Thank you very much.